episode number 14 of British Strength Radio with Tom Martin. If you would like to support the generation of future episodes of this podcast, head over to britishstrengthmagazine.com and subscribe to British Strength Magazine. We have some of the brightest minds in the UK strength sports industry writing for the magazine and interviews with the UK's best athletes. Tom Martin, welcome to the podcast.
Hi Alex, thanks for having me.
Just get that mic nice and close to you.
Okay, is that close enough?
Yeah, I mean, you can move the mic, you don't have to lean into
it.
Okay, so for those who do not know what you've done, obviously you've done quite a lot in powerlifting. Why don't you list one or two of your accomplishments?
So most recently, I guess, I pulled the biggest raw deadlift in Britain. That was probably the last successful competition I entered at the GPC Bristol qualifier earlier this year. So that was 410 kilos. And prior to that, I managed to total 1,000 kilos in the 110 kilo class. How much depth would you like to go into?
Well, yeah. I mean, the only other thing off the top of my head that I can think of is that you've won Pro Raw.
Oh, of course, yeah. That it's because last time I went to Pro Raw, I had to pull out injured. So that's kind of my memory of Pro Raw is that I didn't complete the competition at the moment. So,
but you've won it.
But the previous year, yeah, that wasn't a great day either, to be honest. I managed to get 3 lifts past. Oh
Jesus, I remember that one. I actually remember that squat looked scary because you passed out on the way up, didn't you?
Yeah. So that happened on both of my 380 attempts, actually.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not sure what that was about, but I cleaned my diet up a fair bit since then, and that kind of thing stopped happening, but I was having issues with that while squatting for a while.
Is that blood pressure? Was that the problem?
I presume it was blood pressure related, yeah. Once I dropped a bit of weight after that comp, I never had that issue again, actually.
And what were you weighing? I know is it the 110 class that they have at Pro Raw?
Yeah.
And what were you weighing? About 108, is it, that you normally...
I was around 108, 109 that time, but... not in the greatest shape I've been in, to be honest. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously you've accomplished 1 or 2 good things, and as we just heard there, and being that was your last successful comp, the GPC Bristol. When was that? Was it about a year? It feels like about a year ago.
No, that was this year. That was about 4 weeks after Pro Raw this year. So
it really wasn't that long ago.
April, yeah.
Time flies. And at the minute, like, what's the situation with you? Are you injured at the moment, or?
I'm recovering from several injuries at the moment, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Over the last year, I've probably managed to, at the same time, have injuries in all 4 limbs, to be honest.
And just take us through what they are.
So I tore my quad at Pro Raw.
Yeah.
And that was, well, I tore it before then, because I was kind of hoping I might just about make it through the competition. That was became evident during the warm-up that wasn't going to happen. So I pulled out of that one.
Move that a little bit closer.
So I couldn't squat, so I came home and I started focusing really heavily on the deadlift then. And last minute I got an invitation to come and guest lift at the GPC Bristol qualifier. And I think this was about 2 days after I pulled 420 in the gym, so I really didn't want to do another deadlift that weekend.
I remember that vividly, yeah.
Yeah, so but I got roped into it anyway, and this tends to happen. I usually plan to do 3 competitions a year, and then I end up getting roped into 2 or 3 more, just because I happen to be there coaching most of the time anyway.
Yeah.
So I've mixed feelings about this comp, because it was really good for me to finally pull the 900 pounds in competition.
Mm-hmm.
But I did tear my hamstring quite badly doing it at the time, which is almost certainly down to the fact that I wasn't recovered from my previous deadlift session that week.
Right, so you've got quad on one side, hamstring
on the other side.
On the other side.
Yeah.
And upper body injuries are...
So I've always got some bursitis in my right shoulder.
Right.
That's been an ongoing issue since before Pro Raw, actually, but that's usually manageable. It's a bit painful to bench sometimes, but I can work around that. And then most recently, in my preparation for the Irish Pro, it was probably the one day bench had been feeling good for me in this prep.
Uh-huh.
So I pushed it a little bit and tore my tricep.
Right.
That was so that's all 4 limbs.
Christ almighty. And I mean, I've listed this as one of the topics that we'll discuss, but that's a lot of injuries, and we'll go kind of deeper.
It's been a rough year.
Yeah, we'll go deeper into injuries as we go on, but that is absolutely mental. So at the moment, like, what are you planning comp wise, and how close? Because I mean, I've seen some of your lifts on the gram, and it's still looking pretty damn good. I've not seen your bench obviously because you're still getting over that, but how close do you think you are to competing, and what do you want to do?
I'm not sure at the moment, to be honest. After the Irish Pro, I had every intent of taking quite a long off season, because that's not something I've really done in the last 5 or 6 years now. It feels like I've just been going from one comp prep to another.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this is why I'm getting hurt so often at this stage.
Right.
I do just need to take a break a bit. But things have been going really well in the gym since. So I have a few invitations to comps. I'm not sure which I'll do, but there's a few possibilities. There's the WRPF Worlds. That's later this year in November. That's probably going to be too early for me, to be honest. But following that, there's another WRPF Invitational that Steffi Cohen's hosting over in Miami. So I'm thinking that's probably most likely going to be on my next realistic target. That's the beginning of February next year.
Okay, so we've just talked about this before the podcast started, but let's talk a little bit about the WRPF, and kind of what you understand of it, what insight you have on it, because that's what I'm hoping to qualify for with the next comp that I do. I say hoping, as long as I get my lifts in, I'm sure I will qualify. But like, WRPF seems to be growing. What do you think of it? Do you think it's a good viable route for like athletes like us in the UK to go down, and like worldwide?
So I've no real experience with qualifying for a WRPF comp through any kind of British powerlifting at all. I've only ever been involved with the invitational side of it. But I went to Boss of Bosses last year, which that was a WRPF comp, and that was probably the best competition experience I've had, to be honest.
Okay. And like, not to shed any negative light on anything intentionally, but from what I heard, do you ever listen to Brandon Allen's podcast with a guy called Andy Huang?
From time to time, yeah.
Yeah. So their review of the recent Boss of Bosses was that it was like awful, that a lot of lifts got passed that shouldn't, which is becoming a recurring theme on this podcast, even though I'm not trying for it to be. But was it?
It's a problem.
Was it a problem when you competed at it though?
I didn't think so, but being that I was competing at the time, I wasn't really watching the competition. So my lifts were good, I thought. So
yours always tend to be within the competition guidelines, don't they? For what the refs are looking for. But I'm kind of the same as you. Like, when I actually go to a comp,
not really sure.
I don't watch other people's lifts. I'll look at where I am in the roster, and then I'll watch the lifts afterwards, maybe.
So all I could say is my experience of competing there was really positive.
Okay, yeah. Right. So that's one that, like, if you get invited to, do it. That's what you.
Boss of Bosses, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. And that, I take it you've met Dan Green a couple of times then.
Yeah, I met him for the first time over at Body Power, I think, a couple of months before I went over to Boss of Bosses, actually. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, he seems like a cool guy.
He's a laid back. Yeah.
I've met him once. I went over to America in 2014 when I first got into powerlifting. We're staying in San Francisco at the time, going like around the West Coast. And I thought, right, if we're in San Francisco, I have to just drive over and get like just a coaching session with him. And what I can say of him is that in that hour, he tried to fill the full hour with knowledge. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? He was just like, everyone I was asking him, he was just trying to pack the hour with knowledge. Yeah. So I thought that was really cool of him, really positive experience.
Is there anything you in particular you feel you really took away from that?
Ooh, let's see. Right, it was like 5 years ago. He was, you know what? Like, there is something. I know it's at the back of my mind, but I can't really think. He was basically maybe one or two things on the squat. Not massively like revolutionary in terms of what he said. Just kind of making sure that he was like describing the torso as being like a battering ram. It should be like a battering ram. If a battering ram goes through something, it doesn't bend at all. It shouldn't have any give to it. And that's kind of how he squats, isn't it? Like he speaks about like pushing back on the bar almost rather than just try to push directly up. I don't think I took that away as such. I think it might just be his particular cues. He likes wide stance squatting. He likes low bar squatting. He's a fan of both of those things. He did tell me something about the side of the sport that, you know, a lot of us have to do to compete, which I won't go into because that was a private conversation.
Okay.
But I think over time, I think I've kind of gravitated towards that, and I do kind of heed that advice now, and I use that advice in my regime. But yeah. No, I'm sure I'll remember all the other stuff after.
So more along the lines of moderation then. Or...
No, because I think I was always, I was always like relatively in the lines of moderation, apart from kind of maybe for like a couple of weeks, like during like bodybuilding, where it was just kind of like maybe some ancillary things that you might kind of make use of, and like then it just becomes like using your repertoire just expands a lot, and it looks like if you put it down on paper, you'd be like, whoa, what the fuck?
Right.
But
okay.
Yeah, I've always been in the lines of moderation. I think I would say just having a continual regime rather than stopping. That was that was one thing. I think
we actually discussed that at one stage as well.
You and me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think we've
analogy about the shirt fitting.
Yeah. So sometimes, obviously, the shirt will be loose.
Yeah.
And sometimes it will be tight. But like a lot of people like to keep the shirt tight.
Keep it tight. Yeah.
Keep the shirt tight all the time, but like with varying degrees of tightness. Take from that what you will, listeners. I think we should probably move on.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Okay, so let's go right back to the start. When you got into powerlifting, what was like your impetus for getting into it? I know you're involved in other sports before, so how did it all come about?
Yeah, so my introduction to strength training came through trying to improve my performance in other sports, actually.
Okay.
So I really didn't have any idea that there was a sport where you just test these lifts. But as soon as I found out about it, it seemed to really suit the direction I was going in with my training at the time. Okay,
so being that you were you're involved in athletics, right?
Yeah.
You're a sprinter?
Yeah.
What was it 100, 200?
I did 60s and 100s.
Okay, so it just makes sense that you're a powerlifter, such power, short duration sprints. What was your best 60 and what was your best 100?
Best 60 was 6.71.
Right, okay, I don't really know what the standard is. What's the world record?
I think it might be 6.39 maybe.
Okay, so I imagine there's... How close is it? I know it's 0.4 of a second. 6.71 did you say? And then 6.39.
Yeah.
So it's what, 0.3 of a second, but is that a lot?
Yeah. It doesn't sound like a lot, but if you line two people up and watch as they cross the finish line, it's quite a big difference.
Right, but you were good though.
Probably a good 4 meters. It was good enough to just about get into the final round at the British Championships.
Bloody hell! So yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of always hovering around top 10 in the UK. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Okay, so the lifts that you started incorporating, I take it in terms of like how most people who get into strength and conditioning and getting into it, you were probably doing the Olympic lifts rather than squat, bench, and deadlift, or were you doing a mixture of both?
It was a mixture of both. It wasn't really the Olympic lifts. It was the power variations.
Right. Okay. The ones that are easier to pick up for athletes.
Yeah. So and there was never really any emphasis in my athletics training on deep squatting at all. To be honest, it was all half and quarter squats. Which I
bit like now then.
Well, a bit like some people now. Yeah. Yeah. So I was.
I'm only kidding, mate.
Yeah.
You do go deep.
I do try.
Yeah. Okay. So it was all sport specific.
Yeah. Well, they wanted it to be sport specific, and I would kind of go off and interpret that my own way. Right.
Okay. And how did you transition then, like away from the athletics onto? It was weightlifting first, wasn't it?
No, I went straight to powerlifting.
Okay,
yeah.
And you just kind of tried some weightlifting in between?
I had a couple of years where I tried weightlifting.
Okay, right.
Not very successfully, but that's definitely a lot harder to pick up in later life than powerlifting is.
Right. No, yeah, I can imagine. It's so technical, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And kind of when you started powerlifting, like what kind of year was that around? How old were you?
I think I entered my first competition when I was 22. So
right. Okay.
Yeah, probably about 10 years ago now.
Okay. For some reason I thought you'd been in it for much longer than that. Because like when I first got into powerlifting, I was 24, and I think there's a year between us age-wise.
Right.
What, are you 31?
Yeah, I'm 31.
I'm 30, right. So really, you only got into powerlifting 3 years before I did. And I thought, well, you're 20, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you'd been in the sport for ages and ages and ages.
It feels like I have, but it's probably because I've been strength training for another 5 or 6 years on top of that as well.
Okay, so you were good when you got, did your first
yeah,
comp?
I mean, I deadlifted 300 in my first comp.
At eight?
I was 79 in that comp.
Oh my God. Was that a record at the time, or was someone else?
That was not a record in any capacity in the GBPF. I thought it may have been a Northwest record, but
right, okay.
The Northwest division in the GBPF has some really strong history.
Yeah. I mean, I heard of a guy, sorry, not heard of him, he's actually written for the magazine, Eamon Toll.
Oh, yeah.
He was like, I read the article, some stuff that he did about the British Championships when he was, younger and in his weight class. Just some crazy stuff. Like, all the guys were all pulling like, it was like maybe the 93. It wasn't the 93 class, was it, back then? Like the 90s, it was like, the same classes that we have now.
Yeah.
They're all pulling around 330, 340, stuff like that, 320 squats. And back in the day, like when like people didn't really do that in like the 80s or whatever it was, maybe early 80s, 70s. But yeah, there were some strong guys back then, weren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. So in the Northwest, we had I was chasing Ron Collins.
I've heard of him, yeah.
Yeah, so he had I think it was late 340s, I think, in the 82.5 division.
Yeah, so you were way away on your first comp, but yeah, eventually,
I think it was within my first year of competing actually that I deadlifted 350, which would have been a junior world record had the competition been sanctioned internationally.
Right. Okay. Right. That's crazy. And that's quite a big jump in a year, right?
Yeah.
Do you just start like fully focusing on powerlifting then? Did the comp just motivate you like crazy? So
I started off getting into equip lifting straight away.
Okay.
Much. So that first comp I did was a raw 300 deadlift.
Ah.
The 350 I did by the end of that year was equipped. I'd probably put 20 kilos on my raw deadlift, I think, in that time. But I was getting quite a lot from the suit, to be honest.
Right, okay. That's in terms of a conventional deadlift, did you just kind of learn how to use a suit quite well? Because a lot of people say that a conventional deadlift doesn't really make use of the suit.
Yeah, so I heard that a lot, and there are a few problems to overcome with that. So to get anything from the suit conventionally, you have to wear it really tight.
Right.
That's what I found, which just absolutely killed your start position.
Mm-hmm.
So to get the most out of the suit, I had to find a way of getting really strong in a horrible position, basically.
So we're talking like a bent back.
Yeah.
Right.
But that seemed to really work for me. I did a lot of work on lockout from blocks, because I actually found the tighter the suit was, the more difficult it was to actually finish the lift.
Right. Okay.
So,
Okay.
I just did a lot of work that year on the problems that the suit presented, basically. And it might not be the best path for most people to lift conventional in a suit, but there are kilos to be had if you're.
Yeah, I think that's like a common theme in your lifting. You find the way through even if it's not a conventional way, excuse the pun, you find a way to kind of get what you can out of the lift.
Yeah.
And it's
exactly.
kind of the way that most people aren't doing it, if that makes sense. Sometimes.
I mean,
do you know what I mean?
As a general rule, my training, I'm always chasing something that I'm bad at. I'm trying to improve it.
Right.
Which is usually a very close variation to the competition lift.
Right.
So if I
Okay.
can find a way of making that much harder and then get stronger at it, then I've been quite successful doing that.
Right. That makes sense. Just try to you're looking for weaknesses.
It's just a problem-solving exercise, really.
Yeah. When you look at it like that, it makes perfect sense. And like you say, they are very close variations of the competition lifts. So you'd gone from the equipped stuff. So what were your best free lifts? Kind of what did they top out at equipped?
So in my first year of single ply lifting, I managed to squat 330.
Right.
I started that year with a 200 raw squat, and I finished that year still only able to squat 200 raw.
My God.
But I really went all in with the equipment, and I did all my training pretty much equipped and really maximised what I was getting from it.
And at that time, everything was still equipped, wasn't it?
Well, that's the only reason I did it, is because there was no reputable competition internationally that didn't involve equipment. So
right.
if I wanted to lift against people that were worth lifting against, that was the only route at the time. Now, as soon as they introduced an IPF Raw International, I dropped all the equipment straight away, because I don't know, I like to feel like I'm lifting the weight. It doesn't make sense to me that I'm competing in a strength sport and I'm getting a lot of artificial assistance.
Right, yeah.
So, when we're talking about 130 kilos extra on my squat, that stopped making sense to me, to be honest.
Right, yeah. And at what point then was it that you actually started to transition over to raw powerlifting? Was it when it became like actually a thing to do in the IPF?
It was, yeah. That was
around 2012 was the first Worlds. Yeah,
I didn't attend that one. I think I'd only just started to get back into the sport again, because I'd broken off and done a bit of weightlifting for a couple of years.
Right.
And because I wasn't so interested in coming back and competing equipped. And then when there was a route to lift raw internationally, I dropped the weightlifting then, yeah.
Right, okay. And what were your best raw numbers when you finished in the IPF?
My best total was 791
at
93.
At 93. So there was a 350 deadlift included in that, wasn't there? That was a raw.
I think it was 351.
351. That was a world record, right? IPF world record.
The only world record I've had was actually equipped in the IPF.
So that world record was the equipped one.
That's a bit complicated. So the 350 I did as a junior would have been a world record, but it didn't count because it wasn't international.
Yeah.
It was my final year as a junior, so the next year I lifted at the IPF Europeans, and I think I deadlifted 345 there.
Right.
82 point. No, it was 83 then. They changed the weight classes. 345 at 83, which still stands now as a world record.
Wonderful. That's just kind of shows how good that was in terms of like how far it's carried on.
Well, I actually believe several people could have beaten it, but the nature of having a deadlift world record is it's always at the end of the competition where people are fighting for places.
Yeah.
So you tend to find that the people strong enough to beat this record, they never even attempt it because they
just
drop the third
need.
attempt.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So I was a deadlifter then. It didn't matter to me. I just pulled as much as I could because I was coming 5th or 6th anyway. It didn't matter.
Right.
But yeah, the people who focus on the total, you tend to find they're never going all in with the deadlifts.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Not on the total, on the placings rather. If you're trying to win the competition, which means a bit more in the IPF than several other venues at the moment. But
I think in general, like, you're a bit of an anomaly in that, like, the people who get the best places at powerlifting comps don't tend to be the best deadlifters.
No.
It tends to, certainly in the heavyweight classes anyway, it tends to be massive guys who have a really good squat, really good bench press, and the kind of an average deadlift. Don't you think that kind of lends itself to powerlifting in total a lot better than being a bit more kind of long-limbed?
Yeah, I'd say so.
In general. Obviously,
I've somehow ended up a squatter, though. I'm not a deadlifter.
Yeah, you're pretty damn good at that as well, aren't you?
That was when things changed for me. When I figured out how to squat, I guess.
Okay, and tell us a bit about that. How what did that involve for you figuring out how to squat?
I actually credit the couple of years I did weightlifting to this.
Right.
Because my squat was really horrific when I first started powerlifting. So throughout my my equipped years, it was ugly and it would not have worked raw, which is why I was getting so much from the suit while still not really improving my raw lift.
Right. Okay. A lot of sitting back then.
Yeah, pretty much. Really, wide stance, sitting back, leaning over quite a lot.
Yeah.
Just no real control.
Okay, so you got like Sorry, go on.
No, go on. Sorry.
So basically, you implemented a lot more of the weightlifting stuff.
Yeah,
the style.
I learned how to do a high bar Olympic squat.
Yeah.
And I found that basically taught me all I needed to know about the squat.
Okay, and especially as because obviously you finished the your IPF years with like 265-ish squat, raw squat?
270.
270,
yeah.
Okay. So then there was a transition over to the GPC when you first started being in the GPC. 350 at the GPC British Finals, was it?
325, my first comp.
Okay.
Yeah.
In reps, first comp in reps?
Yeah.
Okay, I did not know that. So really then you just transitioned more and more into this Olympic style whilst putting some mass on, obviously.
Well, that first competition I did was actually the first competition where I tried a low bar position again.
Right, okay.
So that took a bit more refining, which happened over the next couple of years. Yeah.
Right, okay. So you were just kind of getting back into it and then...
Yeah. So I kind of learned a low bar squat, which was a little bit more hip dominant.
Okay.
Which for me didn't really lend itself to getting much out of the knee wraps.
Okay.
So then I actually refined this a bit more and started trying to squat more like a high bar squat, but just putting the bar in a low bar position and keeping everything the same.
Right, okay. So from what I've seen, like from a lot of the social media kind of posts that the discussions that you're involved in, I think I saw that like, the very first time that one of the Finnish guys said this to you.
Yeah.
I think it was one of the Finnish guys said something like, "This is not how to squat in reps. You should be pushing your knees forward."
But this was a man who, I don't think in sleeves he squatted more than me.
Right.
But he was at the time probably squatting 40 kilos more than me in reps.
Was it Edward?
It
by
was,
any chance?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I actually remember seeing the exact comment.
Yeah.
Like scrolling through Facebook. So since then you've had this style where you low bar, you're pushing your knees forward.
Yeah.
And it seems to be what a lot of your clients are doing as well.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And that's one of the main things, apart from just simply getting stronger, getting more mass on, because your legs are a lot bigger than they used to be.
Yeah, that's helped.
Yeah. That you attribute to it, do you think?
So I've quite long legs.
Right.
which usually lends itself to having a quad imbalance. So you're usually weaker with anteriorly weaker compared with posteriorly. I'd say if you have longer legs usually.
Right. Okay.
But I found all the high bar work I was doing with the Olympic lifting kind of addressed this.
Right.
So a lot of people will use it as an excuse to rely on the posterior chain more, whereas I saw it as a weakness and just thought, well, if I'm at this disadvantage quad strength wise, then that just means I need to make them stronger.
Yeah, like you've just mentioned about finding the holes in your lifts and addressing them. Did you go through a stage of doing like a more of like a Bulgarian type method with your squatting, where I think you were squatting a lot at one point, squatting every day?
That really works well for me while I was lifting in the GBPF.
Right.
So kind of at 270 kilos, yeah, that was working well. At 370, that's not possible for me. No.
Right.
Yeah.
So would you say, in terms of like general advice, general advice, you beginners who can't lift as much absolute weight, can recover a lot more quickly?
Yeah.
Your
definitely.
advanced lifters need the time to recover in between sessions.
It's really individual. It's not even a case of beginner or advanced. I think it's just the stage in your lifting career that you're at.
Okay.
So what you may consider advanced may be somewhat starting point weight wise.
Okay. So it's relative.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So how many times a week would you squat now?
At the moment, I aim for two
okay.
times. Yeah.
Right. That seems to be the norm, doesn't it? It tends to be 2 or 1 times.
It depends where I am in my training cycle, really. If I'm not focusing on the heavy knee wrap squats, which, to be honest, that's all the time now. I don't see a point in not focusing on that if that's how I want to compete. But if I'm, if I'm just sticking with sleeve squats, maybe doing a little bit more volume with less weight, I find that I will do more frequent sessions. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense because it's less absolute weight. Yeah. So that theory
you need the stimulus somewhere. So if you're not lifting with as much intensity for a while, up the frequency.
Up the frequency. Yeah. And what about your clients? Like, what's the most? Because obviously you've got some. Well, none of your clients. Okay, Dr. Deadlift's pretty damn strong, isn't he?
Yeah.
Graham Hicks is pretty damn strong, but the majority of your clients aren't as strong as you, aren't anywhere near as strong. How many days? What's like the most you've got someone squatting, benching, or deadlifting?
At the moment, 5 times is probably the most.
Right. Okay. Do you mind divulging who that is?
That's Joe Whiteley, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, female masters lifter in the GBPF.
Okay, and she's got like quite a high absolute amount of strength, though, hasn't she?
Yeah.
For her,
but
for a female lifter.
Unfortunately for her, we've just found that nothing else works as well.
Okay.
She'd quite happily train a lot less, I think.
Right. So it's just literally not based on a theory, it's more kind of trial and error.
Yeah, so I've been working with her for maybe 6 years now. So
okay.
We have a pretty good idea of what's working.
Cool. So let's talk about your work and your coaching then. Uh-huh. I think when I first started chatting to you, you were working in your dad's fishing shop, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was, at the time, was that pretty much your full-time thing, or were you doing a bit of coaching on the side too?
Yeah, it was 50-50 really. So
right.
There was a while when I was just working in a gym, not coaching, just cleaning the weights up, and I was supplementing that with part-time work in my dad's shop as well, and it just about added up. Yeah.
And now you're full-time coaching online and in person.
That's right. Yeah.
And what did you think about, obviously for you, you're quite open about the fact that you're very invested in this sport. Have you always been the type of person who's wanted to live their life in terms of career based on something they actually want to do, rather than just kind of a lot of lifters will do a job and they'll just kind of try and get through the day at work so that then they can go and train. Do you get where I'm coming from?
You know what? I was happy doing that.
Okay.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, that was easier.
Right.
Because now, if you're in the gym 10 or 12 hours working, the last thing you want to do is stay another 2 hours to do your own training.
Right. And is that what a typical client day will involve? A lot. Are you doing a lot of hours?
Some days a week it will be that much, yeah.
Okay. And how many days of the week are you training?
At the moment, 4 or 5.
4 or 5, okay.
I'm not too heavily into my training at the moment. It has taken a bit of a backseat.
Okay.
But I'd say probably 5 or 6 days would be typical when I'm really on it.
Okay. So you've gone over to kind of the other side of things, whereby you're shall we say, I know this sounds very like university, but living your purpose. You're living your purpose through coaching people, and you've seen like some of the disadvantages.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I can see. Well, obviously.
At some point, I've started considering myself as much, maybe even more so, a coach than I am a lifter.
Right.
I do tend to put my own lifting second quite a lot of times, unfortunately, which is something I really need to address this year, because it probably has contributed to me having a bad year, I think.
Do you think that's because, well, is one of the ways that can happen just because your own programming takes, like, if you've got so many programs to do for people, sometimes you'll put your own program that you have to write and that you have to set out to the back of the list?
I'll be honest, I don't even write a program for myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Would you ever consider, like, for that reason, would you ever consider saying to someone else, look, I know my body pretty well, obviously I've made a lot of progress, but do you want to take the reins? Or
it is something I've considered.
Right.
I think ultimately I'm probably too stubborn to do what someone else tells me to do. I kind of feel like I know what I need to be doing. I'm just not doing it for a lot of other reasons.
Okie dokie.
And until I can really address those other reasons, there's no point in me getting someone else involved.
That's fair enough. If you were to get someone else involved, like, who would a few people, like, worldwide, would you kind of consider to be quite good?
That's a tough question.
It is a tough question, isn't it?
It is actually something I've not really thought about too much.
Fair enough. Okay, let's move on to your clients then. I would say that probably two of the most prominent ones in the UK. Obviously, your girlfriend, how do I pronounce her name?
I just say Susanna. It's not
Susanna.
How you pronounce
Okay.
it, but yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. And I'd say probably, I know he's not your client as such, but you've got Hixie, haven't you, who you're helping out a little bit. I know he's Australian strength coach, Sebastian O'Reb's guy, but you're helping them out. And I don't know if she's still your client. She did some bodybuilding. She was like a bodybuilder. Kira, that's the one. Yeah. Is she still with you, or?
She will be if she does any more powerlifting.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Because she looked like she had a lot of potential. What did she do?
I think she put about 50 kilos on the all-time record total.
Oh, is that it?
In her first competition.
Christ! Wow.
Yeah. So
I didn't even know it was that. I knew she'd done well, but I didn't know it was that.
Yeah, as a 75 kilo junior lifter, she squatted 225.
Oh my god!
I think the bench was 117.5 and a 210 deadlift.
Yeah, it's coming back to me now. I remember that. Yeah, she's a force to be reckoned with.
There's a lot more potential there.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Because she's already got a load of muscle mass as well, so all she needs to really do.
Yeah, she just doesn't have any kind of neurological efficiency, I think.
So she just needs to train that, and
the amount of improvement we made in about 4 weeks just by. You know how she built this squat? She was doing sets of 20 with 140 kilos.
Oh my god! Some people can just do that, can't they?
Yeah. So 225 sounds a bit on the low side to me.
Yeah, to be fair, it does, doesn't
it?
But
if you've never had that weight on your back,
you're
not going to move it well.
Yeah, and like, from my perspective, I know for a fact that, like, if I was still just bodybuilding and I were doing sets of 20, that my strength would not go up, but like you do get some people who can literally just, they will get stronger doing that.
I mean, I don't think it's the right way for her to improve her strength, even despite the results she's had. I think she's
better ways.
I think she's miles off her potential. Yeah,
she must be. Let's talk about Susanna, because she's obviously come on a lot as well. Did she recently squat 220 at the Irish?
220 at the Irish, yeah.
Yeah. And what's her bench and deadlift?
She benched 95 and deadlifted 195 in that comp.
Bloody hell. Some good, what is she, a 760?
That was, I think she weighed just under 71 in that comp.
Right, okay. Really good numbers too. And obviously Hicksy, what is it exactly you're doing with him? Is it more kind of like mechanical stuff in terms of his biomechanical stuff?
We're teaching him how to squat, basically.
Right. His problem was his problem with his shoulder mobility with the high bar stuff.
Yeah. The first time he came, it maybe took him 45 minutes before he could pry himself under the bar into a high bar position. So to go from that to a low bar, there's a lot of work to be done there.
Is it literally mobility because he's got such tightness because of all his massive benching and stuff?
Basically, yeah. His pecs are really tight, his biceps are really tight, and he's just not able to get his hands close enough to
get his back tight.
Yeah, he's not even on the bar at the start of the session.
Oh wow.
So I'd say it's not even a case of getting his back tight, because it's that tight that if we could ram him into position, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
It's just his arms just won't. There's no room for it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Because obviously we've seen him do these 400 kilo SSB squats, where your arm position doesn't make a difference. I guess maybe that's why the discrepancy is not what you'd think it would be. Like most people can squat a lot more on a straight bar than an SSB, right?
It depends how you squat on the safety squat bar, I think.
Right, and he's leaned forward a lot with it.
If you get someone who with a strong deadlift and you get them to lean forward and pull down on the handles, there's usually not going to be much discrepancy there at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. See, yeah, I understand what you mean. I've never really tried that way because I know it does my knees in more than all the other things do. But just because the bar's coming so far forward, I've always tried to push them up.
I do the same. Yeah.
But I understand what you mean now. I understand why he's squatting those kind of numbers with that SSB. But what do you think he could squat with a bit of work? Because obviously he's got big dogs, hasn't he, coming up?
I just hope he sticks around after big dogs, to be honest, because he's not really going to. I think he could beat the all-time total world record if he sticks at it.
It looks that way, doesn't it? It looks like he could be a good all-rounder.
And he's probably not going to do that in his first comp. Right. That'd be a big ask.
So we're looking at
1140, I think.
1140. Okay, so some quick maths. So you're looking at 400, and you're going to need like a high 400s squat, aren't you? Not high 400s, but like mid 400s?
Yeah, I'd back him for mid 400s.
Mid 400s, then what do you reckon you can bench? Because he's doing 270 doubles.
He'll end up benching over 300.
Oh my God. Wow. I didn't think you were going to say that, but yeah, it's starting to make a lot more sense. And then even if he only pulls like 400, 410, then there you go. Yeah. Excellent. I look forward to seeing it. When is Big Dogs?
I think he's just flown over there now, so probably 2 weeks away.
Oh shit! So it's close. I didn't even know it was that close.
I'd be interested to see what he squats, because we've only just really managed to get him in that final session we had into a low bar position.
Right.
And it looks really good. It's just not been tested, so that'll be interesting.
Was it 275 for sets of 5 or 6? Was it?
He did a 325 for 5.
Oh shit! It's me saying 275 there.
Yeah.
325. Oh my God.
And then did a pretty fast single on 355 after.
Nice. Well, good luck, Graham Hicks, flying the flag for the UK over there in Australia. First UK guy to ever do Big Dogs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must
Yeah.
be. Must be.
I know a few have been invited, but I think he'll be the
Yeah,
first to
I
actually
think.
make it there.
Yeah, I think with big dogs, I don't think we've had it. I think maybe the only big guy who could have done big dogs really was probably Luke, that we've had so far, like within the time frame that it's been. You know what I mean? If Luke would have put, if Luke would have trained for it, put wraps on, etc. I think he was probably the only guy. But now we've got Graham.
You'd expect him to go over 1100, I think.
Yeah.
There's Arthur. Arthur got invited.
Yeah, he was high 900s, wasn't he? I forgot about Arthur. Sorry, mate. Yeah, so on a good day, on a really good day, Arthur could get 1,000. For him, it's just putting it together, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
He's been 972, hasn't he? I think, or something like that. 975.
I think maybe 982.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So he's close on a good day. He's a little bit smaller now, I feel. Not smaller. I shouldn't. He'll be mortified if I say he's smaller. He's lighter.
He's in better shape.
He's in better. Yeah. He's focused on getting a bit healthier. So also I heard, because my chiropractor is his chiropractor too. So that's how I heard that. But anyway, your other guy, this is quite an interesting one. Dr. Deadlift.
Right.
In what way are you helping him? You're helping him with all three lifts, and kind of what type of stuff you're doing?
I basically write his program.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And when did he get into contact with you?
Maybe 3-4 months ago now.
Right. And what was he looking for?
It might be longer. It goes pretty quick, doesn't it?
Yeah. Were you guys in touch anyway, kind of thing?
Every now and again, yeah. Yeah, I thought he was joking actually when he asked about my prices for coaching.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought he was winding me up, but.
And do you feel like he'll end up like being a suit? Because I see like you're doing a lot of conventional stuff with him, which he did before anyway. But
Yeah.
That's budging up now. Do you think, like, to me, like looking at him, he looks like a conventional puller. He's like quite long, isn't he? He's like really long and thin.
Yeah. Except he just gets an extra 40 kilos when he switches over to sumo.
Well, I guess there is that, yeah. So,
but yeah, he's one of the few sumo guys who actually will openly admit it is cheating and should be banned.
Right.
I think
I don't admit that, by the way. I refuse to admit that.
You pull some big weights conventional though, right?
Yeah. I'm going to be working with someone. I can't say who it is, because I think he's embarrassed of me. He told me to keep it a secret.
Right.
But there'll be a lot of conventional in my training coming up. So, yeah. And I feel like...
who would be embarrassed?
Everyone. Anyone. You won't get it.
Right, okay.
You won't get it. He's not... he's a popular guy, but he's just not one that you'd mention all the time within powerlifting. But I'm encouraged by what has been said so far.
Okay.
But yeah, we're just because it's not about him being embarrassed. It's more about it's just really early stages, and one of us might not like it.
Right. Okay.
So
yeah.
But yeah. So Dr. Deadlift, like, is there anything specifically that you told him to work on that you think that you guys have figured out?
Very minor tweaks, to be honest. I'm never really looking to change someone's training too much when they've already had a lot of success.
Right.
He knows what he's doing. He knows how to train. But so I'm looking at what he enjoys doing, what he needs to do, and it's kind of in line with what I'm doing myself, actually. So it's not too difficult for me to program for. But I'm basically just trying to organise better a bit what he was actually doing already.
Okay. So, like, I looked at his squat, and that seems to be one that he struggles with. I think maybe technically a little bit, from what I saw, like in the way that he kind of when it does break down, is that something? Have you worked? I would imagine, like, for some reason, I would have a feeling that you change his squat.
Squat's been quite difficult. He's always had a lot of knee problems.
Right.
So he's never really been able to train his squat that hard, I think.
Right, okay.
A lot of the changes I'd like to make to his squat biomechanically will definitely put more stress on his knees.
Okay.
So
Right.
it's a fine line, really. So again, we're just trying to optimize what he was already doing.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Sounds like me in a way, because I looked at his squat and I was like, oh, that's similar
Does
to
it look familiar? Yeah.
similar to how I squat, and I've got
Yeah.
bad knees as well. So now you've said that, it's making way more sense. Okay, so
Doesn't really lend itself too well to much carryover from wraps, though. If that's something you're interested in.
yeah, I don't. It doesn't, does it? Because if you
No.
it's like a lot of the equipped guys who squat like that, they're getting the carryover from the suits,
Exactly. Yeah.
not the wraps that they're wearing.
This information's only just coming out now, really, because you found that all the advice you get from knee wraps has come from the equipped lifters, because they were the ones wearing the knee wraps.
Right. Okay.
And so you're still hearing about how you should be sitting back into your squat when you just have knee wraps on, and it's just that's so counterproductive in my opinion. When you think about what you're trying to accomplish, you might have 80 kilos more on the bar than you can actually squat.
Okay. Yeah.
And you've only got support on one joint, which is the knees.
Yeah.
So why are you putting all the weight onto the unsupported joint?
That's a
you
good
already
point
know
when
you can't
yeah.
squat it. So
Do you think it? Okay, let's say for example you had like nothing on anywhere, like you had maybe knee sleeves on. Would you say that it's like a continuum almost, whereby if you're squatting equipped, it's a lot of sitting back. If you're squatting with no support, there's an equal amount of articulation from the knee and from the hip, and then with a knee wrap squat, you'd change things quite a lot because the equipment's on the other joint, and you'd almost be doing more of like what you were saying before, like a high bar push the knees forward type thing.
that's a bit complicated again.
I know it's different for everyone, but
I found for myself early on it was definitely that way. So my squatting sleeves will be somewhere in between the two.
right.
And I found that through actually using the wraps and building this position up in the wraps, I've actually managed to keep a lot of that strength, and it's now the better way for me to squat without the wraps as well.
Okay, yeah. So you've strengthened your legs basically.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So I've put support on my knees, which if you think about what a knee wrap's doing, it's giving you support in leg extension. That's all it does. So I've taken advantage of that, which basically means it's like an artificially stronger quad when you have a knee wrap on. So that's allowed me to train in a position that uses quad strength more.
Yeah.
And in turn, that's actually developed more quad strength because I'm training in that position.
Yeah. Would there be an argument that if you're supporting the knee, you're overloading your back too, though? You're overloading the other joints, so therefore the one without support on it should take more strain and get stronger.
It does, though, because that's absolutely correct.
Right.
You are overloading all the other joints just by the fact you've got a heavier bar on your back.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of a win-win in a way.
Yeah, basically. Yeah,
okay.
it takes care of itself.
Okay. Okay, so going on to more kind of almost in that kind of, just quickly actually, what do you reckon Dr. Deadlift is going to be deadlifting like within like the next year? I hate to not use his real name. Kyla Woolham, is that it?
Kayla.
Kayla.
Yeah.
What do you think Kayla's going to be deadlifting with the next year with you?
I would back him to pull 1,000 pounds.
455, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's actually competing in a couple of weeks at the Slingshot Record Breakers. What I predict happens there, he'll open 420. I'm pretty sure he'll go 440 on his second. And then he will probably fail an attempt at 455, I imagine, because there's nothing else to do really after the 440.
Yeah, you want to go for it, don't you?
So he's probably not quite there yet, but he's surprised me before though.
Well, that'll be another one that'll be good to watch.
Bigger surprise, I think he'll bench over 220 as well.
Wow. And what weight class is he in? Is he like 110?
100.
Hundreds.
And he's a genuine 100 as well. He's around 98 to 99.
Okay, I did not know that. I had him maybe a bit heavier because people sometimes are a bit bigger than what they look in the videos. But yeah, that'll be a good one to watch. Hopefully, I can get the live feed on or whatever. So let's talk a bit more about like lifestyle type stuff. I think like a lot of people probably see you on Instagram because you have a lot of followers, don't you? You have like over 20,000, maybe over 30,000, something like that.
41.8.
Oh, Christ. So that's
I don't care.
That's not that you're counting.
No.
So that's a lot of people kind of looking into your lifestyle. I know you post mainly training stuff, but they see this super strong guy who is lifting these massive weights. You're going around in this nice car. I don't know what it is. Forgive me, I'm not into cars. And you and your girlfriend are both powerlifters. So, like, what does like a typical day involve? Like, what is the lifestyle actually like for you?
Pretty much seeing all of it there, to be honest.
Right. Okay.
Hers is a bit more varied because she has a job outside of the gym.
Right.
But mine really isn't.
Okay. So, like, from waking up, like, what normally happens?
I'll start by answering a few questions from clients online, send a few programs out, and then go to the gym for my first one-to-one session. Try and fit my training in at some point, and I'm going to get home pretty late most nights. It's rarely before 9 p.m.
Okay, so I mean, from what you've actually described there, it's not massively different to the life of a PT. You might just be being
I'm
somewhat
a PT,
humble,
basically. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay. So I guess the main difference is the car, really.
Right.
Have you always had like a bit of a fascination with cars?
Oh, always.
And stuff?
Yeah. So one of the benefits of this lifestyle, where I don't really have any free time.
Okay.
It's all centered around work, and it just means my money doesn't get spent on anything.
Right.
So
you save by default.
And I have this one thing I actually am really interested in, so I invest into that.
Okay.
It's probably my only real focus on anything outside of lifting, to be honest. So
yeah, I feel like people maybe do need to have like a bit of a hobby outside, don't they? Like, because this isn't a hobby for you. It's definitely not a hobby for you. I think by products of your lifting, you have made your lifting a career in a roundabout way. Everyone in powerlifting makes it a career in a roundabout way, but you genuinely have got there a lot by your actual lifting. Do you know what I mean?
It seems backwards in some ways, but my biggest advertisement for my coaching probably is still my own actual lifting, unfortunately.
Yeah, because it's a marketing tool, though, isn't it? If you've got 40,000 followers, even if you stop lifting tomorrow, you would still have 40,000 followers. Do you know what I mean? So
I'd like to think so.
Well, a few would unfollow, wouldn't they? But
I'd keep reposting old videos. I think
they're all in the same setting, so you could just tell someone that it's a PB or whatever or something. But I mean, whether that's the case or not, in terms of like, I know what you were saying. It was kind of similar to what Sam and I were saying the other day, whereby
did you get a lot more inquiries after he totaled 1,000?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's whether that's the case or not. You've definitely been given a marketing platform via your performances. So yeah. So let's talk about maybe. In fact, while we were almost transitioning off the Dr. Deadlifting, I've been seeing you pull sumo. I've been seeing you pull sumo, and it's left me feeling somewhat dejected in that I was like, you know what? I'm the strongest sumo puller in the UK. Then I see you fucking pull 400 the other day. Is it a variation that you're going to use in your training to make your conventional stronger?
I'm basically just learning it sarcastically. So there's a lot of conventional lifters who are adamant that everyone pulling sumo is cheating.
Yeah.
I feel like if I actually go and do it, it lends more weight to that argument.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, I think you're probably a bit of an odd one out in that a lot of the conventional pullers who say that cannot sumo for shit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you... I don't know, maybe...
That's why it's cheating, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Well, then again, but you could put the argument forward...
Until your sumo actually overtakes your conventional, and then it's not cheating anymore.
Yeah, but you could put the argument forward to them. Okay, well, if it's cheating, you do it then, and that's
basically what
you do. Okay,
yeah.
fair enough, right?
But you know, if I pull 420 next week,
you do it in
pretty
comp,
sure
wouldn't
I'll
you?
stick with it. Yeah.
Yeah, you do it in comp. Why did you never have this inkling before? Did you never really?
I have tried it a couple of times before.
Right.
But I've always had a comp to prepare for, and I get kind of halfway through my prep, get semi-decent with the sumo weights, and I just feel like this isn't a certainty, so I'm just going to back the one that I know is going to work for me.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And do you feel like now that it's a bit stronger is maybe because of all the quad strength and stuff, the leg strength that you've built up over time? Because you did used to, like you say, be very posterior chain dominant. You've got a bit more, or do you not really think it's made a difference?
I've taken a really different approach to learning it this time.
Okay.
I didn't really have the intention of learning it. I just have some overuse injuries around my hips, which I was trying to address with a bit better strength balance. And one of the things I was lacking was adductor length and strength in the lengthened position in my adductors.
Right.
And training at a gym that really doesn't have any machines there, I was quite limited with options on how to actually train my adductors. And I thought, you know what, I'll try sumo. So I started off with about 40 kilos, just doing some really slow negatives, pushing my knees out.
Yeah.
And I was finding that was hitting my adductors really hard and actually improving my situation quite a lot.
Yeah.
With my issues I was having. And I guess things just got really out of hand from there.
360 kilos later.
Yeah. So I started pulling quite heavy off the blocks because I figured. I'll be honest. I've seen people doing it on Instagram.
Yeah.
And they were moving a lot of weight, and I thought I could probably do that. I can probably capitalize a bit on this recent trend. So I worked my way up to 480 from some blocks.
Yeah.
And then I just had to go from the floor, and it just made sense, really.
Right. Yeah. Another thing that would be really interesting to see when it transpires, which I think with just the advent of social media, it's like one of these things that you couldn't watch before. Yeah. But now you can watch stuff like this. Like, I wonder what happens with that. I think it's really
what I found really interesting is I'm getting people who didn't follow me before commenting on my new sumo videos and actually giving me shit for it and saying conventional's the proper way to lift. And I'm just thinking, how did you actually find my Instagram page?
You know what? You do get a lot of comments on your stuff. Like I've noticed, like just like on British Strength magazine, like reposting you and whatnot, and just looking at the posts. My God, you're a victim of that.
Victim's the right word, yeah.
Of your success in a way.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, I think I've asked you this question before, like just when we were chatting, I think once. When you get so many followers and things like that, and you've probably got a lot of clients, do you mind divulging how many clients you've got online and stuff who you're in contact with?
Probably around 60 at the moment.
Okay, so that's a lot. Do you find it difficult to get back to people?
Yeah, I have to.
Do you find that your phone is always going off?
It's never out of my hand, basically.
Right.
So I've had to actually do quite a lot of preparation before coming to talk to you here, knowing that I'm going to be spending a couple of hours not actually able to look at my phone. My
God, wow. Just so that you'll have a backlog as soon as you...
Well, not even a backlog, just I'm just trying to take care of anything that might be urgent during these couple of hours, because there isn't really an hour in the day where that isn't happening to me.
Okay.
So I'm working with a lot of people in different time zones.
Yeah, of course.
So, I'll get home from here tonight and I'll be talking to people in Australia then.
Yeah. I asked that question because I guess I have 2,000 followers, so that makes it. I hate doing maths on this podcast because I always get it wrong. If you've got 40,000, I've got 2,000, so it'd be 500. So 5%. It's you've got 20 times more than I have.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I have 5% of the followers that you have that you just whispered to me there. Thank you. So basically, I found that like recently I've started to get more inquiries and stuff, and I find that like without a system, it could get like just out of hand.
You need a system.
You'd need a system, but I just can't fathom how it must be for you. Obviously, you've built up gradually, so it's not like all of a sudden all these messages have just been dropped on you. But like, I just can't fathom how much your phone must go off and stuff. It must be crazy.
Yeah, I kind of done it in stages and got comfortable at a certain amount, and then thought, you know what, I can be a bit more efficient with my time.
Yeah, that's just something I wanted to know. Like, I imagine like a lot of lifters out there are like, wish I could be as strong as him. And then, when you do get as strong as him, you're bombarded by people constantly. That's not to say that I don't still want to be as strong as you, but, you know. Okay, so let's talk about, like, the current powerlifting landscape. UK, worldwide. We'll go UK first. How do you feel it is at the moment? I know that's a very general question.
UK, let's say underrepresented at the moment.
Underrepresented in terms of, what do you mean? Like there's not enough talent out of the UK, or there's tons of talent, but we're not?
I think we're a few years away from seeing the talent in the UK start to match other countries, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't want to be too critical of anybody really, but it's the standard of lifting just isn't on average as high as a lot of other places at the moment.
But it's getting better.
It is getting better, yeah.
And do you think that's just because we don't have as many people? Or do you think it's just... Well, what do you think it's down to?
It may be down to population. I've seen the sport get a lot more popular though.
Yeah.
Maybe dilution of competition's probably not helping.
Okay, so like just more federations coming through, or but we've had like the same ones for the past. Or do you mean that's always been the case?
Do we just have all our strongest guys doing strongman instead? Maybe.
That's a good point, because when Hicksy did come over, it was like right, but then at the same time, Luke.
You know, Hicksy's our only chance at an 1100 total anytime soon.
Yeah.
And what's the gap between there and second place?
There's 100 kilos, isn't it?
It's massive.
Yeah, that's a good point. But like you say, if someone else were to come over, like if Ed, I know Ed's got his own stuff to focus on, but if he did hypothetically come over, then there'd be another chance, wouldn't there? Yeah.
So we do have the lifters. They're just not powerlifting, I think. Yeah,
I think even like the Stoltmans, they'd have a chance if they really trained it. From what I know of what they do in the gym, So you've got a good point there, like you say. It's just more of a strongman country, for the top guys.
It seems to me like Andy Bolton was probably the last real superstar in powerlifting from Britain.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that without thinking like too far into it.
It seems to be right, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Maybe I think
we've just been catching up since, I think.
Yeah.
So, I think how many thousand totals do we have now?
Is it 4 or 5, something like that? You've got obviously Sam did it first, then you've got then it was you, Luke, then you, Sam, Luke, you,
then Sam.
4.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. People are saying Glenn Ross as well. But again, we always talk about this on this podcast, and I still haven't heard like a conclusive answer. So we're not
okay.
we're not going down that route.
But basically, not enough.
Yeah, not enough compared to like top of my head. US had 58. I think Marcos posted the other day. That's a really random number. I remember it being 58, which is crazy.
Globally, 1,000. It's. I don't want to say it's not that good, because it is. It's really good, but it's not that uncommon.
No. What do you think's harder to do, 400 kilo deadlift or 1,000 kilo total?
400 deadlift.
Yeah. Because obviously 1,000. Are
I mean,
we saying that because 1,000 can be got through a variety of 3 ways?
I'm saying that I think because I don't see too many 400 deadlifts in the country. I found it easier myself to pull 400 than I did to total 1,000, but
that's because your talents are skewed one way.
I think I really didn't have any place being in this race for 1,000 total, to be honest.
Right, because your body weight is light.
I try and take myself out of this because
right.
For me, the 1,000 total absolutely was more difficult than the 400 deadlift. But if you start looking at people who are weighing 140 plus,
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
The 1,000 total, if you're squatting over 400, I feel like 1,000 total should be a done deal, really.
Yeah. Because, it's obvious why. Yeah. And so let's look globally. What do you think of the landscape of powerlifting? Do you feel like the competition is high enough at the top levels? Do you think like dilution of what you said?
It's always too diluted, yeah.
Yeah.
So you got a couple of people doing good things. So Marcos in Australia is he's really trying to make the sport competitive again.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is it's the other side of the planet, and it's not feasible for everybody to do. But he has managed to turn out some of the biggest totals in his comps. So
he has.
And not just the biggest totals, some of the most competitive totals as well.
Yeah, everyone says the same thing. I've never heard a bad thing said about his comps. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of people who don't actually compete anywhere else.
Is that so? So they will just do pro raw?
Yeah.
Once a year?
Well, Eric Lillibridge, I believe, only ever did big dogs for the last few years.
Ah.
I'm not sure
so
what he's doing
he almost
now,
made it like, I hate to use a bodybuilding analogy, but he just used to do the Mr. Olympia every year.
Yeah.
Right.
But I guess to him, that was the only place it mattered. And I think that's just because he was so determined to beat Andre.
Right. Yeah. And it's weird how those two lifters' careers have kind of, I don't want to say that Eric's has gone because he's only young. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know whether he's rebuilding.
I'd heard he'd actually retired.
Right.
So I'm not sure what's happening there.
Right. And it's just so crazy how like people fade away like that though, isn't it? Because Andre's, I know he's still competing, but maybe he's past his best. Probably.
It's more than likely. I don't like to say that.
Yeah.
But,
we're just speculating, that's all. So something I wanted to ask you about, like something that I'd been, which we kind of got onto before, sleeves and wraps. So it seems that in America they really value sleeves, and we're talking untested side of things.
Yeah.
Not talking about the IPF, where raw is sleeves.
Uh-huh.
Do you feel like, and this is more of a question for me, I guess, but do you feel like there's a stage where you'd want to go if you wanted to have like the equivalent of pro raw but in sleeves, if you wanted to really test yourself against the best guys in the world without doing the whole knee wraps thing?
It's something I have considered a few times. Yeah.
Would you prefer it hypothetically if it were the case that the untested side of things just valued sleeves more than wraps?
Right. So when I moved over to untested powerlifting, there was BPU and there was GPC in Britain.
Yeah.
GPC was raw with knee wraps. BPU at the time was absolutely nothing on your knees at all.
Yeah.
Which I just won't do it. I refuse to do it.
For what reason?
It hurts.
Right. It's no more dangerous though, is it? We know that it's no more dangerous to have.
So I'd been doing a lot of lifting in sleeves already, I guess.
Right.
So I didn't really want.
It
to
doesn't
back down
feel as
from
good.
that.
Like it feels scary as fuck.
It just feels shit, doesn't it?
Yeah. But I think when you get used to it and forget that sleeves exist, I think, like, don't get me wrong, my knees hurt all the time, but like I think that feeling that they're gonna just like snap just kind of goes away. You kind of, the fear goes away. But anyway, sorry, you were in the middle of an explanation.
I
there,
wonder
sorry.
if you'd feel differently if you did a more knee flexion dominant style of squat, though.
I've kind of got the same problem as Kayla has, in that like, I know what you mean though. I know what you mean.
Would you value sleeves more if you weren't?
Well,
I'm
I'm competing in sleeves next, but all I base it on is the fact that sleeves aren't actually gonna save you from tearing your quad or like snapping your patella in half.
No,
they just feel like they are. And it's a proprioceptive benefit as well.
I warm up a bit quicker in sleeves.
Right.
I maybe squat a little higher because of the proprioception thing in sleeves.
Right.
But I do definitely get some kilos out of them though.
But I would feel, no, what you just said then, I understand what you mean now. I would feel different because that's why I squat wide.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're actually working on bringing it in now.
Right, you might.
A little bit.
Yeah, you might find that you start relying on your sleeves a bit more.
Well, the next comp I'm doing is the BPF 1-inch sleeve, so I hope that I enjoy that, and I hope that I enjoy that federation. I can't really comment on it yet because I've never done it, but yeah.
No, it's just my lifting had been so focused on. I've done so many squats in sleeves at that stage already.
Yeah.
That I just really loathe the idea of not wearing them to squat.
Yeah. Okay.
So I put some knee wraps on instead.
Okay. So basically, BPU roll wasn't an option for you. Really, the other option, because BPU, the classification of sleeves is always going to be the same as wraps.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like if you're going to put something on your knees, you might as well
do wraps now. Yeah. So that's how you decided upon it.
But also, it really appears to me like the most popular form of untested lifting at the moment is in knee wraps, deadlift bar, monolift.
Absolutely, yeah.
So these are the people I want to compete against. So it's like the same problem I had when I got into the IPF originally. I don't necessarily agree with this calling it raw with wraps. It's some people are getting 100 kilos out of them.
Yeah.
But this is how people are competing. So
I actually agree with that massively. People will argue that it actually wasn't how powerlifting started, was it? But how it started. It wasn't. They got introduced pretty quickly, but they were such thin knee wraps that you can't really call them like wraps like the wraps are today. It's not the same thing.
But like all equipment, people figured out it was adding kilos to the lift, and then they figured out to add even more to it. And here we are. Yeah.
So basically, you do the wraps because that's where the competition is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you feel like?
In fact, I'm just far enough down this path now where I'm kind of close to my goals in the wraps. Okay. That I just feel like this is what I'm doing.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't want to back off from that.
Okay, so do you feel like there's an alternative for a guy who wants to compete in the sleeves, in the untested? Do you feel like you really just have to seek the meets out and go to America?
You're going to have to, because there aren't any in Britain, are they?
No.
Unless you're happy just to squat in sleeves in a wraps competition and just... Are you more into the numbers or the competition?
For me, I'm into both, really. Like, I'm into progression. If I were to not progress, I'd be quite unhappy, to be honest. And it's frustrating, as I guess we've both known at some point. But also, like, I feel like you should do it at a big comp. Your big totals, try and do them at a big comp, because it feels like it carries more weight. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's not always going to be the case that everyone's going to total big at a big comp, but you want the big comps to be there. Do you know what I mean? You want them to be there to hit your big totals at. So for me, it's a bit of both, and it's kind of hard to explain, to be quite honest.
But what is it about the big comp that you value?
I guess it's that other side, the competition.
It's like the actual opposition.
Yeah, to have the opposition and to have the pressure as well. Like, if you know what I mean, you know the atmosphere is different at a big comp when you've got other guys walking around, but when you walk into the room and you suddenly, like, you're the top dog, like, and you know that you just don't feel that same atmosphere. It's different. It's almost as if it's been set up just for you. You know what I mean? You're with your mates and stuff. Yeah. But when you're not with your mates, and it's all like, people from abroad, people from different countries, you're not getting the same type of respect. I think it does add some pressure and a bit more adrenaline. So to do it there probably adds more value in my opinion.
It does add some credibility to your performance as well.
Yeah. So basically, I guess you just have to seek them out, and roll with wraps will be the thing, don't you think? Moving forward, it will continue to be the thing.
I expect so, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Just because those are the totals that already exist that people are trying to beat.
Yeah.
And no one's going to try and beat them without the wraps, so it's probably not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's so far ahead. It's so far ahead now, yeah. No, you're right. Something I may have to accept moving forward. Let's talk about, like, just to kind of really wrap this one up, what's the future holding for you? Obviously, like, at the minute, even, like, let's talk about business first, because there are probably two things that you probably like to refine. I'm getting from what you've told me. Do you have any other plans of stuff that you want to do moving forward in terms of your work life, your career?
Not really, no.
No, okay.
So my first goal really is to stop having to rely on my own performance as an advertisement for my business.
Okay.
So this is focus on the guys that are actually that I'm working with, because you kind of need continued business in this, or people don't stick around either. So you're kind of cycling through new people a lot.
Yeah.
So you need to have something that's drawing people to you if you want longevity in this business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always going to be able to be my performance, because it's just hard to. I'm going to be 10 years older at some point, and I probably don't want to still be doing this then.
What would you do when you finish though?
I honestly have no plans whatsoever. Yeah.
Would you mainly coach and just kind of train for fun?
I think in some capacity I will always train. At some point I'm not going to want to be competitive.
Oh, sorry about that, people.
But coaching wise, I don't see that stopping as long as there is demand for it.
Yeah, of course. It has a social aspect as well to it, doesn't it? Especially
Absolutely,
if you go into comps with lifters too. Like, I quite enjoy being at comps.
So I mean, if I spend all my day in the gym, that is my social life.
Yeah, and you're there as well, aren't you? You're not just an online coach; you're actually there with people, which is which can be fun. It's a good environment, like you say. Can get a bit claustrophobic after a while, but yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing we didn't cover, as I just realised you were saying that you may only have so long in the sport, whether you want it or not. We talked about injuries at the start. What do you attribute your injuries to, do you think, on a general scale?
This last year I would definitely say two things. One of them is just lack of focus on myself, really.
Okay.
I've been a lot more invested into the coaching side this year than my own lifting.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried to lift the same as well, while actually not giving myself the same focus. So I've still been trying to push for bigger and bigger numbers.
Yeah.
But I've not really done the work to back it up. So
okay.
Like this recent injury, I was attempting a 220 bench. I'd not gone over maybe 170 in the last couple of months before it. Right. Yeah. But just because it felt good that day, I thought this can really line myself up to where I need to be at the Irish Pro, so I'll go for it. So
you just went for it.
And I'm stupid enough that this isn't the first time that kind of thing has happened either, and it won't be the last.
So when you say focus on yourself, you literally just mean focus on hitting those weights more, like preparing for your sessions better, or?
So I need to be more prepared for the heavier sessions I'm having by doing some more work in previous sessions, to be honest. And I've just not been doing it now.
Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough.
And the other thing I'll attribute is I always get hurt in some capacity when I try and lift under 100 kilos body weight.
Right.
So I'm probably going to spend this next year filling out the 110s.
And stick with that as a class.
Yeah. Let's see if I have more success with that.
Okay. So just kind of...
I definitely think it's a safer option injury-wise, though, put on a bit of mass.
Okay, so what we're saying is you're going to put the mass on, be a bit more protected that way, and just focus on yourself a little bit more in terms of your own training, be more prepared for the sessions.
I'm saying I should do that. It's not necessarily what will happen, but ideally that's the way forward for me, yeah.
Right, okay. But you're saying that your heavy training, frequent heavy training, is not what does it, it's more infrequent heavy training.
Infrequent training, not infrequent heavy training,
okay,
I guess.
Right.
At some point you need to back off and build a base again.
Okay, right.
But I've just been, as I said earlier, I've just been going from one comp prep to another.
Right. So it's just basically you want to do some more volume work as well?
Yeah, maybe okay. a little bit more hypertrophy work.
Yeah.
Just
okay.
Just stay away from the things that are hurting me for a while. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So moving forward, then, when you're back to kind of feeling like fully like yourself, comp plans, ultimate goals in powerlifting.
My only ultimate goal really is that when I leave the sport, I don't want to feel like I could have done more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure where that's going to take me numbers wise, but I think I could work up towards an 1100 total maybe before I'm done.
Yeah, if there's anyone in the UK who's like around your body weight, I think everyone's like backing you to do that. You know what I mean? The last 100 kilos is going to be the hardest 100 to get, but
yeah.
But
I feel like half of it's already there. I just need to put it together on the day.
Yeah.
This has been kind of why. Another reason why my training has been the way it has been recently is I've not actually felt the need or pressure to get any stronger. I feel like there's more I could have been getting out of myself with what I already had. So I've just. You
were literally waiting for a comp to come up without any injuries present, and then just do it. Yeah.
But in turn, I've entered too many comps and got injured.
So an 1100 kilo total in the 110 class would put you ahead of Belkin, obviously, wouldn't it? What's Belkin doing
at the moment? But I'm sure he's heading in that direction as well. To be honest.
What's he got at the moment? 1050-ish?
More than 1050, yeah.
Is it?
Maybe, yeah. If you look at his best lifts, I think we've got a 415.
No, I mean, what's his actual total that he's done on a day? Is it? I'm sure it was somewhere around 1040, 1045.
I think he may have gone over 1050 in the hundreds recently.
Right, yeah. In a recent comp, I think he got a bit more maybe, yeah. So, okay, so...
But I guess we'll see what he's capable of in Big Dogs a couple of weeks from now.
That's a very good point, yeah. He's back there.
But he's always looked to me like he's been sandbagging quite a bit.
Right. Yeah, a lot of his third lifts look a bit quite easy.
But he's so far ahead that maybe that's a smarter game, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah, the Russians kind of play it like that quite a lot, don't they?
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, apart from Konstantin, as you said, if you've got the ability to display your strength on any given day, fucking do it.
Well, that's been my approach, to be honest. And I've carried that into the gym with me as well sometimes, because a lot of the satisfaction I get is from just having lifted the weight. I don't necessarily care where I've done it or who I've done it against.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just trying to progress and get stronger.
Yeah. I guess that goes back to our thing of the big comps. Do you need the big comps to do the total?
Personally, I don't feel like I need them to do the total.
Right. Okay.
I like to go to them because I do like that side of competition as well. But I can just be happy with the numbers and looking at rankings lists, to be honest.
Right, okay.
If I've lifted more weight than anyone else, then I feel like I've won.
Right, okay.
Regardless of whether that happened in the same comp
or
not.
Yeah, you can't say that it didn't happen, especially if you look at your lifts on video, you look at them back and they're all legitimate. That's the bloody that's the main thing. In terms of that ranking list, it is what it is. Type thing, no matter which comp you did it at.
I think if you look at someone like Melanishev, let's say he's on his decline now, and a new lifter on the way up overtakes him and beats him in a competition where he only totals 1,040, say.
Yeah.
Can he really say he's better than Melanishev?
He was better than him at that competition.
but he's still 100 kilos less than the best total he's ever done.
So on that, on the all-time list, he's not. I think you kind of. It's hard to quantify who's better as a lifter because those two things go into it. But I think he knows that he's not. Do you know what I mean? In terms of history, he will not go down as being better than Milanichev, just that he beat him once.
Depends on the person and the person's ego, I guess. But
yeah, I know what you're saying.
The thing he'll remember is that he beat Milanichev.
Yeah, but I guess, yeah.
I don't feel like you can beat someone until you've actually topped their best performance.
Well, no. Yes and no, but is that really your fault if they have a bad day?
No, it's
fair
not,
enough.
It's not your
if
fault
Milanichev's like 60 years old, like it would be very, it would be. I don't think it'd be morally right to go, I beat Milanichev when you're like 25 and he's 60. But like if Milanichev just has a best day and it's not a big margin, then I think it's hard to say whether you're better than someone or not. But like you can be happy that you beat him if he. You know, if he was maybe 20 kilos behind his best total and you beat him by 2.5, still beat him. It's such a hypothetical situation to go through, isn't it?
I'll just put myself in the situation. If for example, I total, let's say I total, I don't know, 1,000, 1,010, and I'm in the same competition as Yuri. Let's say in a recent competition, I don't think he was around mid-900s, I think. Let's say I was in that competition.
Right.
I wouldn't take any satisfaction from that at all because I still feel like I'm 50 kilos less than what he's actually done.
Yeah. I think that my opinion on it, okay, let me put myself in that situation. I'm Tom Martin and I'm facing Yuri. Okay. I'd take some satisfaction in that because I still beat him. Do you know what I mean? But I would always have in the back of my mind that that's not finished. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I know what he's done. I know what he's capable of. It doesn't mean I'm better than him. It just means that I beat him on that day. But we went head to head on that day. He agreed to enter the comp. It's not my fault that he wasn't at his best.
Yeah, I guess it depends how much you value that competitive aspect, the actual sport side of things.
It's honestly apples and oranges, and what it's coming down to here, we can see is just slight differences in opinion and like how you view things.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely understand why people do feel this way.
Yeah, well, let me put it into my perspective. This past weekend, I beat Graham Hicks, didn't I?
Yeah.
But am I stronger than Graham Hicks? No. If Graham Hicks and I would have gone head-to-head in 10 deadlift comps, he might have beat me at 9 of them. But it just so happens that I actually respect him for going for the 410 attempt. All he had to do was go 387.5 and he would have won. Do you know what I mean? But what can I say? It's sport, isn't it? That's just sport. Like, I'm not going to...
I think it's a little different in this sport because performance is so easily quantifiable.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't think you should go away like beating yourself up about the fact that, oh, well, the other guy should have won.
I wouldn't beat myself up about it. I just, I wouldn't be satisfied, let's say.
Yeah. Goes back to something we've said on the podcast a few times. Always content, never satisfied.
Exactly.
Because we're never satisfied, And I think that's a really good place to wrap it up, mate. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Anyone you want to give a mention to? Anything you want to say in general? Sponsors, whatever, you know?
Just while we were on the subject earlier of some of my clients who are doing well, I think it might be worth mentioning Chris Pugh. I don't know if you've...
Yes, sorry, I've seen him tag you in a few of his videos, yeah?
Yeah, he'll be competing again in a couple of weeks, which will be, I think, the third comp he's done in about 9 or 10 weeks now.
Okay.
But he's probably going to squat 350 in the 82.5s.
My God.
He benched 205 this week in training. So
a good one.
Yeah,
what's the comp?
The GPC Worlds.
GPC Worlds in Slovakia, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, anything else you want to say?
No, that's good.
Okay. Well, Chris Pugh, good luck. I'm sure we'll all be looking out for that one. And Tom, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.